Dumelang, welcome to Face the Nation. My name is Clement Manyatela. Great to have you with us here on SABC News. On the show tonight, we pay tribute to former Deputy President David Mabuza, who died earlier today at the age of 64. He's being remembered this evening by his comrades for his patriotic spirit and tactical politics. One man who knows well these tactical politics is the former Secretary General of the ANC, Ace Magashule, who served together with Mabuza in the ANC Top 6 from 2017. He joins us tonight to pay his tribute. We also hear from the Speaker of the National Assembly, Togo Didiza. Also on the show, why does the family of former Zambian President Edgar Lungu not want the Zambian President to preside over Lungu's funeral? We'll speak to Mabeki Zulu, who is the Lungu family spokesperson. And then later, what's happening at the Independent Development Trust? The Public Works Infrastructure Minister, Dean Macpherson, is reportedly at odds with his deputy, Sihle Zikalala, over appointments at that entity. Minister Dean Macpherson will join us on Face the Nation this evening. But first, my comment. Tonight, we pay tribute to former Deputy President David Mabuza, who's died. Mabuza served as the country's second in command from 2018 to 2023. Prior to that, you'll remember he served as the Premier of Mpumalanga for about 9 years. He's being remembered this evening as a patriot. His comrades are remembering him as a master tactician. He was known as the Cat, and he always had a calm demeanor about him. But don't mistake that for stupidity, because often he outmaneuvered his political opponents. Many of us remember, of course, the big move that he pulled in 2017 at the ANC conference. He spoke about unity there and the need to have a unity slate, so to speak. He was a passionate teacher. He only served one term in office, in fact, as the Deputy President, never ascended to the presidency, and that's quite a rare thing for someone who held the position of Deputy President in the ANC. And some political parties are saying he never placed personal ambition above the duties of his office. President Cyril Ramaphosa has this evening sent out a statement paying tribute to the former Deputy President. The President says in the statement that I have learned with deep sadness of the passing of the former Deputy President and former Premier of Mpumalanga, David Mabuza. The Deputy President passed away today at a hospital in Mpumalanga following a short illness. He was 65 years of age. On behalf of government and the nation, I offer my profound condolences to the late Deputy President's wife, Mrs. Mabuza, and the children. During his service as Deputy President of the Republic, the Deputy President applied his leadership and mobilization abilities to his role as the leader of government business in Parliament, leading the South African National AIDS Council, coordinating anti-poor initiatives in the form of public employment programs, integrated service delivery, and enterprise development. Here's the spokesperson for the President, Vincent Magwenya.
I was saddened today by the loss of a leader who was grounded in activism at the early stages of his political career and who came to lead our nation and shape South Africa's engagements with our continental compatriots and the international community in his role as Deputy President. The former Deputy President deserves our appreciation for his deep commitment to the liberation struggle and to the nation's development as an inclusive, prosperous, democratic state.
And the presidency announcing that they will communicate further at a later stage. They said in the statement that further announcements will be made in due course on memorial arrangements and the honors with which the country will pay its final respects to the former Deputy President. The ANC has also reacted this evening. The ANC's first Deputy Secretary General, Nomvula Mokonyane, had this to say.
DD never put his position of being in public office as a prerequisite of him becoming a member. He remained a cadre of the ANC, moved away from public life, but continued to work for the ANC, to serve the ANC, and when duty called, for him to be amongst those that would go out and do organizational work. Comrade DD would do that with passion, with commitment, as well as with the release of his time and energy when he had actually resolved that it is time to spend time with the family. This is a good lesson that many of us are learning out of this cadre, a patriot, and somebody who remained loyal to the ANC until the end.
Well, the Premier of Mpumalanga, Mandla Ndlovu, has also reacted. Remember, Mpumalanga is the province where the former Deputy President David Mabuza served there as Premier for about 9 years. The current Premier of that province had this to say this evening.
It is very sad. We learn with sadness the passing on of a selfless leader, dedicated, fearless leader that this province has produced. We know him as the cat, Master Unity, that assisted in the building of this province.
Zweli Mkhize is the former Treasurer General of the African National Congress. He also paid his tributes this evening.
I want to convey our condolences to the family, particularly who have lost a father, a grandfather, but we also wish to convey condolences to all the comrades and all the people of South Africa who worked with him and he served. He was a really hard-working leader who tried his best for the people of South Africa, especially those in Mpumalanga when he was a premier. So he's a man, we have lost a man who really took his work seriously and tried to do everything he could for all our people.
You can also share your tributes with us following this passing of the former Deputy President. What's your reaction to the death of David Mabuza? What do you think is the legacy that he leaves behind? You can share your thoughts with us by sending us a WhatsApp voice note on 078-459-1897. Remember to tell us your name and your surname and where you're sending that voice note from, and please keep it at 30 seconds. Alternatively, you can send us an X on @FaceTheNation SABC. We'll be back after the break. Welcome back. We continue to pay tributes to the former Deputy President David Mabuza, who passed away earlier today at the age of 65. Togo Didiza is the Speaker of the National Assembly, who's joining us now. Speaker, thank you so much for making time for us. Condolences. You were comrades with David Mabuza. What was your reaction to the news of his passing?
I must say that it was unexpected, and as we all know, death is not something that you expect, not something you wish for anybody. And I must say that it was a shock to learn of his passing, and we want to extend our condolences to his family, his wife, Umamnisi, the children and the grandchildren, his comrades, and all the people of South Africa whom he had served with distinction.
How will you remember him? As I said, this is someone that was your comrade in the ANC. What have been your fondest memories of him, and how do you think you'll be remembering him?
For me, he was a hard worker. He was somebody who take his responsibilities seriously, whether in the party or in the state. I had an opportunity of working with him as the member of the Executive Council in Mpumalanga, responsible for agriculture at the time. He was very concerned on how, as government, we are able to work with citizens particularly to address issues of food insecurity at rural level in particular. He was therefore always concerned about what solutions can be given to assist subsistence and smallholder farmers, as well as their access to land. He was one of the people who always looked for solutions on how we could address problems. He believed that everything was possible if we can put our minds to it. But he was also somebody who was open when there are challenges to be able to engage, citizens, even within the party, engage comrades when there were issues that needed a resolution. As the Deputy President, when he came in 2018, I was in Parliament as the House Chairperson responsible for internal arrangement, which sometimes will make you to chair the sittings of the National Assembly. And I must say that I found him approachable, but he was also, as a leader of government, responsible for the connection and communication in terms of the work that the executive is doing and how its impact on Parliament, and was a conduit to ensure that there is better coordination between the executive and Parliament. And in the responsibilities that he had as the Deputy President, while I served with him in the 6th administration, particularly when he was the chair of the IMC on land and agriculture, I must say that he really assisted that coordination amongst government to enable us to address important issues of land reform and agricultural development.
Yeah. And a lot of his comrades are this evening remembering him for being a tactical strategist. He was often known as the cat. That's how some of his comrades called him. What do you think are some of the lessons that the African National Congress can take from his style of leadership? Yes, he always had this calm demeanor, but this is someone who also cared a lot about the unity of the organization, and that was very much demonstrated with the move that he pulled at the ANC conference back in 2017.
I must say, for me, one of the lessons that I can draw from him was his commitment, his dedication and service to his country. But also, the vehicle for him to do that was the African National Congress. And he indeed ensured that the work that the organization gave him, he executed it with distinction. But he was also not shy to engage, even if he sometimes may take a different position to what you might have. But that was done because he felt it was important to allow people and himself too to express the views that he believed in, that were ultimately aimed at enabling the organization to grow and succeed. But also, he was somebody who, even if might have differed with you on a position, but continued to engage with you as comradely, but also humanly.
Yeah, and we often interacted with him, and as I indicated earlier, he always had this calm demeanor, and I don't know if when he was leader of government business or when you worked with him in Mpumalanga, how he sort of demonstrated his authority. Do you have memories of that? Did he do that? Because sometimes you see people that are calm, but often what you're told is when they show their authority and they need work to be done, they also have, and they can manage to take that authority and be stern.
I must say that, yes, he was calm, but he was also firm. He also needed accountability if there is work to be done and you were given a responsibility to do so. If it wasn't done, you needed to explain why that work had not been done, as you had all agreed that this was an important work and it needed to be executed. So he followed through on decisions that have been taken to make sure that such are actually implemented as having been agreed to.
Yeah.
So I found it very easy to work with him, because when you agree on decisions, and he was able to see to it that such are carried through.
Yeah. Togo Didiza, Speaker of the National Assembly, thank you so much for joining us to pay your tribute to the former Deputy President Togo Didiza. After the break, we hear from the former Secretary General of the African National Congress, someone who served with David Mabuza in the top 6 of the ANC from 2017. Stay with us here on Face the Nation. Welcome back. Now, we are paying tribute to the former Deputy President David Mabuza, who passed away at the age of 64. President Cyril Ramaphosa sending out his condolences this evening. The President also saying that further announcements will be made around when memorial services and, of course, the funeral will be taking place. Another person who knew the former Deputy President very well is the former Secretary General of the ANC, Ace Magashule, who served with David Mabuza in the top 6 of the ANC from 2017. Ace Magashule joins us now to pay his tributes. Mr. Magashule, thank you so much for making time for us this evening. Good evening to you, and condolences, of course, on the passing of someone who was a comrade to you in the ANC.
No, thanks. This is shocking news. But let me first pass condolences to Mabuza's family and all those who are very close to him. We always say, may his soul rest in peace. It was indeed, it's a sad day and a sad moment because I last spoke to him in the last 3 months. Mm-hmm. We have been in communication as comrades, as friends, as compatriots, as people who fought in trenches. Mm. So I want to pass my condolences to everybody.
Yeah. How was his health when you spoke to him over the last 3 months or 3 months ago? Was his health deteriorating? Was he fine at the time?
Well, when I talked to him, as I said, almost 3 months ago, it's just that I heard 2 weeks ago from one of his closest friends who told me that he was not fine. Mm-hmm. And we always kept some of the things to ourselves. So I think his health deteriorated, yes.
Yeah. I remember that reporting about back in 2017 when you were Free State Premier and ANC Provincial Chair in the Free State. And I remember at the time you were campaigning for David Mabuza to be the next ANC Deputy President. If I'm not mistaken, that was actually the first time a senior leader in the ANC endorsed Mabuza. What do you remember the most about the times that you shared with him as a comrade, especially during that time in 2017, preparing for that all-important ANC conference?
Well, firstly, you'll remember in 1997, we were actually redeployed as leaders of various provinces. Myself and Mabuza, we went to Cape Town, National Assembly, spent almost 7 years there. And we have been working together 2007, 2012, but we were working with Zweli Mkhize, we were working with Sihle Zikalala, we were working with Supra, we were working with Mashatile, we were working with many comrades, the former Premier of Eastern Cape, before the Premier now. We were actually very close comrades, and at that time we were also working, because of leadership, we were also working with the president of the ANC, which was Comrade Jacob Zuma then. Mm-hmm. And we were able to resolve a lot of things, even behind closed doors. When there were challenges in KZN, Senzo, Zweli, Sihle, myself and David Mabuza, we entered that space quietly so, away from the media, away from the public. And this is some of the things which we still hold dear to ourselves. Even during the 2022 conference, a night or 2 nights before the conference, we were at this place in Branston. Even though I was actually no more, even though I was suspended as the Secretary General. That's how close we have been working.
What role did he play, particularly in 2017, to ensure that there is unity in the organization? Because at the time, there was campaigning that was becoming fierce. There were politicians in the ANC attacking each other. We came to know of what was known as the Premier League, referring to you and him as the Mpumalanga Premier, and Supra Mahomapilu, who was the Premier in the Northwest. And he spoke a lot at that conference about the need for unity. What role did he play to try and push that unity he was speaking about, particularly at that conference?
Well, all of us were talking unity because you can't talk about Mabuza as an individual. Remember, it's us, and it's him who initiated the fact that we should actually go to Comrade Nkosazana Dlamini to make sure that we actually lobby her to become the president. It was at the initiative of Mabuza convincing us, and we all then approached Comrade Nkosazana, who was very reluctant, but we were able to persuade him. So as we went to the 2017 conference, all of us, including himself, we were agreeing. Things just changed there at conference. And all of us, we were just surprised, but that's the nature of politics. But even beyond that conference, we still remain close comrades working together as SG Deputy President.
Yeah.
Till his death now, I have been having a close relationship and contact with Mabuza, the human being.
Yeah.
At times we forget that comrades are also human. Despite the fact of differences and politics, we were still together.
Yes, yes. Did he say anything when you guys were surprised at that conference in 2017? As you say, there was a lot that surprised a lot of people. Did he say anything? Did he explain anything? How did he manage that?
My phone is about to die.
Okay, let me ask this last question then, Mr. Makashile. What do you think are the lessons to take from him as a leader? The leaders that are currently there now, whether it's in the African National Congress or outside, because there are political party leaders that have appreciated his style of leadership. What do you think are the lessons to take from his style of leadership?
Well, for me, he never bear any grudge. And that's why I salute him, and I want to salute him and say, rest in peace, my brother. And say to the family, condolences. In life there is death, and in death there is life. And that's why we say, long live the spirit of those who have departed.
Ace Makashile, thank you so much for speaking to us. He is the former Secretary General of the African National Congress, someone who worked very closely with David Mabuza. They were in the top 6 together after that conference of the ANC in 2017. As he says, Mabuza playing a critical role together with other leaders in ensuring unity at that conference in 2017. Stay with us here on Face the Nation. Remember to send us your WhatsApp voice notes. We've been asking you about your reaction to the passing of the former Deputy President and what do you think is the legacy that he leaves behind. We'll be back after this. Welcome back. The date for former Zambian President Edgar Lungu's funeral is still yet to be finalized as the dispute between the family and the Zambian government continues. On Tuesday, we heard from the Zambian government, the Minister of Information and Media, Cornelius Mweetwa. Tonight, we hear from the family in as far as this impasse is concerned? Remember, the Zambian government approached the court to interdict the funeral of the former president. They want him to be buried in Zambia. Makebi Zulu is the Lungu family spokesperson joining us now in studio. Makebi, thank you so much for making time for us, and condolences to the family on the passing of the former president.
Thank you very much, and thanks for having me. Condolences to the people of South Africa on the death of the former Deputy President, President David Mabuza.
Thank you.
We convey our heartfelt condolences.
We spoke to the Zambian government on Tuesday about this impasse, and they suggested that there was interest from the Zambian government to have negotiations with you as the family to try and find common ground. Have there been any negotiations lately with the government?
Lately, there have not been any negotiations with the government. You may be aware that President Lungu passed on the 5th of June, and from the 5th of June, beginning the 6th of June, we engaged into conversations with the government of the Republic of Zambia.
Yeah.
And most of the things that we would agree on, the government would at some point change their mind about certain issues that were of concern to the family, certain issues that were of concern to the deceased before he died. All those issues were not meeting middle ground somewhere. And just when we thought we had reached middle ground, again there was a part of the government having to change positions from time and time again. So that's a problem that we had in this.
What are you concerned about as the family? Are you against the former president being buried in Zambia, or are you against President Hichilema presiding over the funeral?
Well, at this particular point, it has become very clear that the government of the Republic of Zambia cannot be trusted in this because of the back and forth. It is desirable for the family, for the government of South Africa, and for the government of Zambia that President Edgar Lungu be buried in Zambia. But after these conversations and negotiations, we're bringing in mediators from different countries to try and speak to the government and also speak to the family. It has become increasingly apparent that the government cannot be trusted, such that even if we got into negotiations right now, we wonder the sincerity of those negotiations, because we are aware that the moment we step onto Zambian soil, things will change, and the Zambian government will renege on what exactly they will have undertaken.
What guarantees would you like as a family to be comfortable with allowing the former president to be transported to Zambia for burial?
Well, currently there are no guarantees that we're expecting from the state, especially that you may have noted that the national mourning was supposed to have ended on the 23rd of June, but on the 18th of June, upon that misunderstanding, the president stood and said he had cancelled national mourning and that things would go back to normalcy. As far as the family is concerned, things have gone back to normalcy. Normalcy means the national mourning is not there and they are free to do as they please privately as a family. But you saw how that a day later, a spokesperson from State House sought to clarify the end of national mourning to say, no, it hasn't ended, it has actually been extended, when in fact it had ended. So all that is showing that these are perhaps untrustworthy people that we're dealing with, and that trust has been broken between the state and the family. So
to be clear, as the family, you are not necessarily against the former president being buried in Zambia?
We're not necessarily against the former president being buried in Zambia, but what is of concern right now is that it will be a mockery for this administration to be the ones to put him to rest.
To rest.
Because everything that they have done in the recent past has shown that they can't be trusted. And what the family wants is a dignified send-off. A dignified send-off cannot occur in a climate where all the state machinery or indeed the media has been weaponized against the family, making the family look as though they're the villains in all these negotiations, the ones that have been unreasonable. And with that, the picture that it gives is that they don't care about what the family thinks. It's a PR stand for the government. It's about the government wanting to look good, not embarrassing themselves in this particular region. The president was on TV saying that if we don't bury President Edgar Lungu, it will be an embarrassment. That should not be his concern. His concern is what and how does the family want to have President Edgar Lungu buried? What do they consider a dignified way of him being buried? And if the respect is going to be accorded to him in a private manner, by him being buried in South Africa, it shall be so. Even the idea of having gone to court has closed off the avenues of wanting to mediate or negotiate, because we had a couple of opportunities. President Bakili Muluzi was our mediator in this whole thing, and we were having discussions back and forth. And if the government was truthful, they would tell you that things that were agreed between the president and President Bakili Muluzi that were communicated to the family, the president changed his mind later on, and we're not able to get back to where we started from. There have been other presidents, by the way, that have been involved in this process, and this process has failed simply because the government has been changing positions at any given time. And you see, if former presidents and other presidents have been engaged in this, and the trust has been broken, there's no other way that we think the trust can be rebuilt.
The Zambian government, when I had the Minister of Media and Information, I asked him if they are willing to compromise as government to have the former president can be buried in Zambia and President Hichilema doesn't preside over the funeral. And they said that that wouldn't make sense for the president to step aside because heads of state would be coming and they would have to be hosted by the state, and the head of state is President Hichilema.
Yeah, it's not a presidential funeral, it's a state funeral, and the president is not the state. So you see that the very insistence that he should be the one to be there goes against the very wish of the family. And with that being the position of the government, there's no compromise that is going to be reached in all this.
Yes. What was the relationship like between the former president and President Hichilema? I know there have been questions raised, and I asked the Zambian government about whether or not they assisted. For instance, when he was sick and he needed to travel for his medication, they seemed to suggest that they were always opening up their door and willing to help. I asked about the presidential benefits that were cut off. They said that, well, that's because the former president had decided to re-enter politics, and according to the law in Zambia, once you decide that, you lose all your presidential benefits. What's your side as the family?
You see, sometime in August of 2023, he was still in retirement. He asked to be taken to the hospital, to come for his medical reviews here in South Africa. The government, without giving a reason, denied him that opportunity for medical reviews to come to this place. So you will notice that even the time when he was supposedly or supposed to be enjoying his privileges, all those privileges were denied him. The president could not, the former president could not easily go to a church service. If he went to a church service, the church service was blocked. We had one in Dola where he was stopped from attending a church service. He used to jog routinely as he would. And every time he jogged, obviously there are others that jog in the morning, they'll join him. The government stopped him from jogging. There was a time he had...
Why did they do that? What risk was he posing?
Well, they called it political jogging. Well, obviously, any former president would command some kind of attention in the moment that they do certain things or go in a public place. That is normal. But I thought that was going to be acceptable in view of the fact that he was trying to keep healthy. But that was a threat to the government. And you may have noticed that at some point he was invited for a conference in Korea where he was supposed to speak. He went to the airport, boarded onto an aircraft. They off-boarded him, took out his luggage and said he couldn't travel. The matter is still in court. It was supposed to come up sometime on the 17th of July, but now he's gone. So all that was challenged. Even when it came to the issue of taking away his benefits, they said he got into active politics and they took away his benefits, which included medical or insurance, which he never enjoyed even before they could take those away. Now that all those benefits have been taken away, what's the interest of the state? The interest of the state in this particular is not to impose their will, but simply to ask the family how they would like to mourn the former president and what role as government they can play in all this. If that is agreed and the family is able to say, okay, this is the role that you can play in this, and we accept that he was a president, that is pretty much acceptable.
Yeah.
But the government has come with a view that they are entitled to the body of the former president. They've been making those assertions to say it's either we have the body or no deal at all. You don't get into negotiations like that. The understanding of mediation is that let's sit down so that you may agree to repatriate the body. But that's not how you look at things.
Yeah.
Yes.
The government seems to believe that public interest trumps the interest of the family and the wishes of the family. In fact, they mention a previous case where apparently the former president, Kenneth Kaunda's family, wanted him to be buried privately, and the former president, Edgar Lungu, is the one who took the family to court because he believed that the state's interest trumped that of Kaunda's, and they're using that as precedent that has been set by the former president himself.
I'll correct that. It's not the president who took the matter to court. It's the family of President Kenneth Kaunda that took the matter to court. It was a judicial review application, an application for leave to commence judicial review, and it failed at that process. So what was not granted is leave for the matter to commence so that it can be ruled on the substance. So there was never an opportunity in that case for the court to deal with the substance of the case. It was an application for leave which was thrown out because they were late in time. So that cannot form a precedent. Even assuming that it was to form a precedent, President Kenneth Kaunda was enjoying all the benefits of the state, which included a state funeral. But if you're going to tell a person to say you're not entitled to all these benefits, and then when they die you say, oh, now you are entitled. I heard him say that posthumously they were giving back those benefits. You don't do it that way. It has to be a proper discussion, a proper compromise between the state and the family. So that authority that they seek to refer to is not an authority for purposes or that would affect the status of President Edgar Lungu.
What are you willing to compromise on as the family? I mean, this is a difficult time for you as the family. The last thing you want is to be fighting with especially a government that the former president has served for so long and was part of. What are you willing to compromise on to try and put this matter to bed so that there can be a dignified send-off for the former president?
To start with, the family is not fighting with the government. The government is fighting the family. Fighting the family because they have gotten the issue to be one of propaganda, one of PR, one to avoid embarrassment, and not looking at the interests of the family. Had they, right from the start, I would let you know that on the 6th of January, the president, or rather the Minister for Foreign Affairs, Mr. Haimbe, we had a discussion, and the first question was, are you giving this benefit or this particular national mourning or state funeral as something gratuitous or as attendant to his benefits? He says, well, attendant to his benefits. And the question was, we thought you took those away. We thought you cancelled them by your letter that was written to him in October of 2023. You said he was not entitled to everything that a former president is entitled to. You even went further to close the office of the 6th Republican president and redeployed his staff, took away the security, took away medical insurance, took away everything. What role are you playing in all this? The response from the state was an imposition and not something that should have been negotiated with the family.
Where do you see this ending as the family? Are you just going to fight it over in court? Or are you hoping for a resolution at some point?
You see, we're happy that the matter went to court because now the court will be dealing with the rights of the parties. What are the rights of the family? What are the rights of the state in this? Has the state demonstrated a clear cause of action, clear right that they can demand? If they're saying it is in national interest, President Edgar Lungu was not enjoying any taxpayers' money at the time of his death. He was not enjoying any benefits from the state. What then, or how then do we treat such a person? Even assuming that he was enjoying those benefits, what is the say of the family? The body always belongs to the family. Never does it belong to the state. And it is the state that has to negotiate come to a compromise with the family as to how a dignified send-off can be given to a former president.
Makebi Zulu, thank you so much for speaking to us.
Thanks for having me.
We'll be back after the break. Stay with us here on Face the Nation. Welcome back. Now, when he took office as the Minister of Public Works and Infrastructure, Dean Macpherson made the commitment to turn South Africa into a construction site. At the center of accomplishing his mission is the Independent Development Trust, which has been plagued by corruption, or allegations of corruption, among others. Meanwhile, the minister has welcomed the appointment of a new board for the IDT by Cabinet. He joins us now via Zoom. Minister, thank you so much for making time for us. Good evening.
Thanks, Clement. Long time coming, but great to be with you. Let me first of all pass on my condolences to the Mabuza family, particularly Mrs. Mabuza and the children, his political home, the African National Congress, and the people of Mpumalanga, where he served as a premier. Our thoughts and prayers are with all of them this evening after the passing of the former Deputy President.
Yeah. Let's start off with the relationship you have with your Deputy Minister, Sihlezi Kalala, because I think that helps explain how a lot of things have unfolded. What's the relationship like between you and Sihlezi Kalala?
I have a good professional working relationship with the Deputy Minister. He's obviously deployed by his political party. I'm deployed by a different political party, but we understand what our roles, functions, and responsibilities are. I had a good meeting with him this afternoon in preparation for a management meeting that we have tomorrow. So we work cordially and collegially.
What role did the Deputy Minister play on what has transpired at the IDT, based on what you've been able to gather so far? I had him on the show a couple of weeks ago, and I asked him if he played any part in protecting the IDT CEO from investigation, as has been alleged. From what you have been able to gather so far, what was the role of the last administration under his leadership in that department?
As far as I can gather, the Deputy Minister played a role as the executive authority over the board. There are no allegations that have been made against the Deputy Minister, and so there is nothing to suggest untoward as far as I can see.
Well, he said that the department's investigation had been concluded on this. What did it find?
The department has not concluded the last report, which was into how the lease issue took place. That is still to be concluded. And when it is, that will obviously come to me. What we've been focused on as a department is ensuring that the forensic investigation into how the 800 million rand oxygen plant tender came about. I've received a draft report from PwC. I expect to receive a final report within 2 weeks' time. And then we'll be able to get to the bottom of how the entity and the former board allowed for such a transaction to take place. I think that it's public record that there were many question marks as to how that came about. But it was also down to a breakdown in governance in the entity by not having a core board, by not having a functional governance. And we worked really hard over the last year to firstly restore a core board, which we did. There was an election of a new chairperson, and now a new board will be starting its full term on the 5th of July. That has been approved by Cabinet. I think that it has been widely accepted by everyone, so we are very happy with the outcome. And that board has to get on with ensuring that the IDT is able to recover its financial position, which is perilous, to say the least, and ensure that all outstanding investigations, lifestyle audits are completed so that the IDT becomes a trusted partner to deliver social infrastructure in provinces across the country.
You've previously claimed that there's a social media campaign against you to discredit you over this IDT investigation. Who do you think was running that campaign? What happened there?
It's not something that I think, it's a proven fact. And if you see online, particularly on X is where it was focused, there were digitally created voice notes of me. There were fake WhatsApps that were created either in my name or my staff's name. There was false information leaked to certain media houses, which was published on the front pages of newspapers. There were allegations of corruption that were made against me. And it was all to try and stop me from appointing a new board. Because in my view, Clement, there are a few people that have a lot to lose. And I think that once the IDT PwC investigation is published, that will start to become a lot clearer. I've said it publicly that there were threats made against my life, and it was all done to try and keep the status quo. And it was just something that I wasn't prepared to accept, or anyone in the department was not prepared to accept. We've had members of the board that have had to face character assassinations and false claims. Yeah. It has been the most outrageous thing that I have ever come across. But so is, the protection of corruption that exists in this country, that people will stop at nothing to protect their ill-gotten gains.
Where does this leave the CEO of the IDT?
Well, I do not intervene or interfere in the operations of the entity. That is done by the board. The board is conducting lifestyle audits into senior management, which we welcome, and we think that that is an important step. And I'm sure that once the investigation is concluded and my report is handed to the board, that they will consider that and see what appropriate action from their end needs to take place.
All right, Dean Macpherson, thank you so much for speaking to us. He's the Minister of Public Works and Infrastructure. Right, that question we've been asking you tonight as we've been paying tribute to the former Deputy President David Mabuza. How do you react to the news of his passing, and what legacy do you think he leaves behind? Some tweets have come through. Rabutata says, a man of humility and respect. It is sad indeed to lose a man of David Mabuza's stature. Condolences to the Mabuza family. Rest in peace, Tata. Alfie says, I send my heartfelt condolences to the former president's family. May his soul rest in perfect peace. He served his country well, and we shall always remember him. Thank you very much for your tweets, and thank you for watching the Thursday edition of Face the Nation. We'll be back with you on Tuesday at 8 p.m. Have a good evening. Cheers.